Hello and welcome to Car Retrospective, where today we'll be dissecting the other side of a rivalry I've already taken a look at, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. Let's have a look. The Lancer itself can trace its roots all the way back to the early 70s. Mitsubishi were manufacturing a number of cars, two of which were the minuscule Minica and the mid-size Galant. However, Mitsubishi knew there was a gap in the market between the two that they had not yet filled. So the design team set to work creating a suitable subcompact car to bear the Mitsubishi badge, and what they came up with was the Lancer. It was offered as either a 2 or 4 door sedan, a 2-door coupe or a 5-door estate car, and was offered with 1.2, 1.4 or 1.6 litre powerhouses. The base car itself was pretty, how do we put it, beige. However, Mitsubishi, wanting to improve their image in motorsport, specifically rallying, unleashed the 1600 GSR, which made 171 horsepower from the 1.6 litre engine, as the name implies. Mitsubishi then sent their little workhorse off to both Australia and Kenya to get to work. The car won the Southern Cross Rally each year consecutively from 1972 to 1977, and then went on to prove itself in the Safari Rally, which at the time was recognised as one of the most difficult events on the rallying calendar. The 1600 therefore formed the blueprints for what was to come for the Lancer. As time went on, however, Mitsubishi had their eyes set on bigger fish. By the mid-80s, they were well into the development of another rally-suited version of one of their cars, this time the newly introduced Starion. The Starion's engine was sourced directly from the Lancer 2000 Turbo, which in of itself was a racer developed for rally prior to Group B's inauguration. The Starion also sourced the 4-wheel drive system from the Mitsubishi Pajero. The car's 2.9 litre engine made 350 horsepower, but then, as you all know, Group B was axed, and so Mitsubishi, like many other manufacturers, was left with a horse without a saddle. However, being the adaptable team that they were, they simply took the drivetrain from the Starion and put it into the Galant, which was a much heavier and larger car, and then entered it into Group A. And so the VR4 was born. It racked up 6 event wins from 1989 through 1992, which was pretty good. However, there was a growing trend in the WRC which was replacing older, larger vehicles with newer, smaller vehicles to be better suited to the narrow, windy roads and tracks that made up a majority of the circuits on the European event calendar. A prime example of this taking place would be Mitsubishi's soon-to-be rival, Subaru, who replaced their sluggish legacy with the nimble little Impreza. It just so happened that Mitsubishi had just the car to do this with too, the Lancer. The compact car was now on its 3rd generation, and once again the team set to work converting it for rally. They took the drivetrain and engine from the Galant and delivered it to the Lancer. Bada bing bada boom, they had a car. This new form of the Lancer, rightfully named the Lancer Evo, had a 2 litre turbocharged inline 4 making 244 horsepower. As well as this, it featured a bunch of other upgrades, or downgrades depending on how you look at it, with no power windows, no power seats, no rear wiper, no anti-lock brakes, and had specially built steel wheels for further weight reduction. Almost 20 years after the 1600 GSR had debuted, the Lancer Evo was ready to take to the stage. In order to be successfully homologated into the Group A Championship, 2,500 units of the car had to be produced and sold to the public market, and this began happening in 1992. When the car was introduced for the 1993 season, it didn't fare too well though, only seeing 2 podium finishes throughout the year. 1993, however, also brought the Lancer Evo 2. This only featured minor upgrades such as better sway bars, an altered wheelbase and an added 8 horsepower, but it was an upgrade nonetheless. This variant was introduced for the 1994 WRC season with an improved 3 podium finishes.
Position, proving once more his ability to match the very best.
The car saw its first win with a 1-2 result at the 1995 Swedish Rally, with Kenneth Eriksson and Toy Mäkinen claiming victory. In early 1995, the Evo 3 was launched, featuring some fairly radical changes. such as improved moulding on the front for better ventilation, bigger side skirts and a larger wing, with 18 glorious horsepower being added as well. It was introduced halfway through the 1995 season and left its foot in the door with a win in Rally Australia, and the team overall came second in the Constructors' Championship after Toyota were disqualified for being naughty with their turbo restrictors. The cheeky little buggers. Again, Mitsubishi knew there were improvements to be made, and in August of 1996 revealed the Evo 4, the most radical change to the model yet. The regular Lancer itself had seen a lot of changes, and at this point it began to reflect in the Evo. Both the engine and transaxle were rotated 180 degrees to balance the weight more effectively and to reduce torque steer, and a brand new device known as an active yaw system was installed, which essentially monitored driver input to balance the torque being delivered to the rear wheels. And of course, those iconic bulging fog lights were added at this point, and of course the tail lights were redesigned into the lovely triangular shape we love today. You may also remember that when designing the first Evo, the team neglected to include things like electric windows and anti-lock braking because, you know, they're not necessary and more importantly, incredibly heavy. But for the Evo 4 they were brought back in the name of driver comfort. By now the Evo had become incredibly popular, and this popularity was only accelerated by the Evo's current efforts in rallying. The Evo 3 saw 5 separate wins in the 1996 WRC, and for 4 straight years until 1999, Tommy Mäkinen won the Drivers' Championship, which is an incredible feat. 1997 saw a huge change to the WRC. Manufacturers were now not obliged to build road-going versions of the homologated racers, and this new rule set created what is known as the World Rally Car. Most manufacturers jumped over to the new World Rally Car rule set, but Mitsubishi remained in Group A in order to maintain a strong link to the Evo as both a rally car and a road-going car. 1998 though would see the entire team's work pay off, as Mitsubishi finally took the Constructors' title, as well as Mäkinen taking his 3rd consecutive Drivers' title. This was the year of Mitsubishi.
Everything's coming up!
Mitsubishi.
1998 also saw the introduction of the Evo 5, but not much was changed, most notably an improved turbocharger which was fitted, and the engine now sat at a comfortable 276 horsepower. Then, early in the next year, Mitsubishi quickly released the Evo 6, once again not sporting many changes, most notably improvements to engine cooling and improved aerodynamics on the front bumper. Sadly, the iconic bulbous fog lights were reduced to pitiful shells of themselves, a terrible side effect of quote-unquote aerodynamic efficiency. December of 1999, however, did see a cool introduction, the Evo 6 Tommy Mäkinen edition, of course introduced to celebrate his 4th driver's title in the WRC. The car was affectionately dubbed the Evo 6.5 and featured Mäkinen branded seats, a sleek new bumper design, and a Momo branded steering wheel and gear stick. However, crossing over the millennial barrier into 2000 and Mäkinen's reign in the WRC had come to an end. The team racing with their new Evo 6 struggled against the fierce competition, not only against old rivals like Ford and Subaru, but against the new European powers such as Peugeot, Skoda and Seat. Mäkinen only managed to place 5th in the Drivers' Championship, and the team slumped down to 4th in the Constructors' Championship. 2001 introduced 2 notable things. Firstly was Mitsubishi's switch from Group A rules to the recently introduced World Rally Car rules. Mitsubishi didn't actually make this choice themselves, rather the FIA sort of, forced them into it. This then led to the second thing of 2001, the Evo 7. Because the WRC cars now didn't have to be homologated as road cars, the Evo 7 chose to be based instead on the brand new Lancia Sedia chassis. More things like an active centre diff and the first ever automatic gearbox to be fitted to an Evo were also made present, and there were some more aerodynamic improvements. Then it was business as usual. The team did moderately well in the 2001 season with 3rd overall, but in 2002 had dropped all the way down to 6th with just 9 points. The Evo 8 was introduced in 2003 and proved to be one of the most influential Evos of the lot. It didn't introduce much to the table itself apart from some improved suspension and a carbon fibre rear spoiler, and admittedly the incredibly cool FQ edition, with a raised power output of over 400 horsepower, and was proven by Top Gear to easily be able to keep up with a Lamborghini Murcielago. And yes, that's how I pronounce the word, it's not Murcielago no matter who says it is, so suck my nuts. Back on track though, more importantly was the fact that it was the first Evo to be sold in the US. After seeing the immense popularity of the Impreza WRX's introduction there in 2002, Mitsubishi was spurred on to ship it over the Pacific. These Yankee Evos did lack some internal components of the international variants, but it was fair to say that it was a huge popularity spike upon its arrival. One thing that wasn't going well for Mitsubishi, however, was the WRC. After Mäkinen left the team in 2002 for Subaru, Ralliart scrambled to fill the gap to no avail, and the team were unable to match the heights that they had reached in 1998, and by 2007 Mitsubishi had left the WRC for good, after almost 20 years in the business. However, they did continue to compete in Group N with the Evo. Elsewhere, in 2005, the Evo 9 saw its birth. This was the first Evo to see power exceed 276 horsepower, which had been the standard in every edition since the Evo 4, and it now made 287 horsepower. Mitsubishi released a number of experimental editions of the 9, such as improved rally versions and even an estate build for a Japan-only market, and only 2,500 units were produced. Then there's the Evo 10. Fittingly, this was the final Evo and saw some major changes both appearance-wise and mechanically. Appearance-wise, it actually looked quite cool in my opinion and was a good, well, evolution to the Evo, although some would comment that it was a little chunky. Mechanically, it wasn't such a smooth story. Mitsubishi replaced the 4G63 engine with a brand new 4B11 engine. The 4G63 engine had been used in all 9 previous Evos, and while the 4B was supposedly more efficient and made more power when stock, many people thought that the Evo had lost its literal soul. Power ranged across the multiple regions, with models in the UK supposedly exceeding 300 horsepower, and the UK police even used Evo 10s for a while in their fleet. The launch of the Evo 10 coincided with the financial troubles the company was experiencing at the time, and Mitsubishi had to have an emergency buyout to stay afloat in 2005. From 2007 to 2016, the Evo 10 saw next to no iterations and is by far the longest lasting Evo in the lineup. And now that it's out of production, there are currently no plans to bring it back. The apparent lack of demand for a sports sedan in the current climate means it simply isn't viable to produce. After the near bankruptcy in the mid-2000s, Mitsubishi would be stupid to try and relaunch such a thing right now. Even Toyota, one of the biggest manufacturers in the world, had to partner up with BMW in order to bring the Supra back to the market. I'm sorry to say, but the Evo is long gone. The Evo is a mixed bag. Some love it, some hate it. I like it personally, especially the earlier editions. Personally, I'd say my favourite is the 5. It was mechanically improved from the 4, but it still retained the massive, fat fog lights. The Evo was born to rally, and when that dream came to an end in the mid-2000s, I think a lot of what made the Evo was lost. However, Mitsubishi managed to take the Lancer of the early 90s and slowly but surely built up a true icon over the succeeding years, and if the economical climate shifts and Mitsubishi finds themselves in a better place, who knows, the Evo might just have to make a comeback. Well, thanks for watching that video, and of course a special thanks to Jonas, who is donating at the highest tier on my Patreon. Views are very slow at the moment, and even £1 is a fantastic help. I also have an Instagram account and a Discord server, both of which I'm proud of, and links are in the description below. Again, thank you for watching, and take care.